Hello and welcome to Film Strips. In this episode, we're diving into a 2011 biographical, comedic, and dramatic movie known as The Intouchables. Be prepared for spoilers. On a late evening in Paris, Driss is at the wheel, chauffeuring his boss Philippe through the city. Growing impatient with the sluggish traffic, Driss decides to spice things up by accelerating beyond the legal speed limit, nimbly maneuvering around other vehicles while ignoring road signs. This reckless driving soon attracts police attention, leading to a pursuit. Confidently, Driss wagers €100 on his ability to evade them. However, the police manage to outmaneuver him by setting up a blockade under a bridge, trapping them from both directions. Unperturbed, Driss UPS the ante, betting €200 that he can convince the police to provide them with an escort instead. Confronted by the police, Driss steps out of the car and quickly slips into an act, pretending to be deeply offended and explaining that Philippe, who is unable to move, urgently needs to get to the hospital. The police verify their story upon discovering the wheelchair in the trunk and observing Philippe feigning convulsions. Recognizing the supposed emergency, the officers not only overlook Driss's speeding but also agree to escort them to the hospital. Triumphant in his gamble, Driss celebrates by blasting September by Earth, Wind, and Fire. Once they reach their destination and after the police have departed, Driss and Philippe share a moment of camaraderie over a cigarette, relishing the successful outcome of their daring ruse. Driss quickly takes control of the situation, driving them away just as hospital staff start to approach. This is just one episode in a friendship that began several months earlier. Philippe and his assistant Magali are conducting interviews for a new caregiver, but they're not having much success due to the uninspiring and awkward responses from candidates. Their routine is unexpectedly interrupted when Driss bursts in. He's not concerned about waiting his turn, as his main goal is to get a document signed that confirms he won't be hired, allowing him to claim unemployment benefits. His approach is direct and somewhat impolite. He even flirts with Magali. However, Philippe is intrigued by his demeanor and asks him to return the next day for the signed papers. Driss returns to his modest neighborhood home where he attempts to take a bath while being pestered by his younger siblings. He manages this only with the help of his slightly older and more responsible sister, Mina. While waiting for their mother, Driss notices his brother Adama stepping out of a suspicious car. Adama claims he was at school and quickly leaves again after grabbing his bag, raising Driss's suspicions. Later that evening, their mother arrives and Driss presents her with a Faberge egg he had stolen, casually mentioning he was on vacation when she inquires about his whereabouts. Upon his return home, Driss is met with disappointment from his mother, who is upset with him for disappearing for 6 months without any communication and then returning abruptly as if their home were a hotel. Fed up with his lies and needing to focus on her other children, she tells him not to return and sends him away. That night, Driss spends time with friends in the neighborhood, smoking and snacking. The following day, Driss heads back to Philippe's residence to collect his papers. Yvonne, the housekeeper, welcomes him and gives him a tour, detailing Philippe's daily routine and showing Driss the room he would have, complete with a private bathroom. Intrigued by the bathtub, Driss is soon led to Philippe, who presents him with the signed document but also extends a job offer. Driss agrees to a 1-month trial, prompting Philippe to wager that Driss won't last even 2 weeks. Settling into his new room, Driss begins learning the intricacies of caring for Philippe. This includes stimulating his legs, helping him into the wheelchair, assisting with showers and clothing changes, and even the more intimate tasks like putting on stockings and aiding with personal hygiene, tasks which Driss initially resists but eventually accepts. One evening, while enjoying a snack on the roof, Driss encounters Philippe's daughter Elisa and her boyfriend Bastien seeking a private spot. Driss refuses to share his beer and sends them away. He gradually adapts to the routine with Philippe, learning from his initial errors such as remembering to assist with the phone and keeping the baby monitor close. He also becomes responsible for sorting Philippe's mail, including a series of private letters that he's instructed not to read. Driss, settling into his role, takes a creative approach when he stumbles upon a flyer for female escorts. Ignoring Philippe's suggestion to discard it, he decides to start a separate file for such materials. Life isn't just about work for Driss. He continues to unsuccessfully flirt with Magali and occasionally invites escorts over. One morning, Yvonne, while reprimanding Driss for oversleeping, discovers some dangerous weapons in his bag, but she doesn't mention them immediately. That day, Driss is tasked with driving Philippe. Instead of using a van, which he feels is too impersonal, Driss opts for one of the luxury cars, rarely used. Philippe initially resists the idea, advocating for practicality, but soon gets caught up in the excitement of a more thrilling ride, though Yvonne disapproves. When they find their exit blocked by a neighbor's car, Driss confronts the owner aggressively, ensuring the path is cleared. Philippe is quietly impressed by Driss's assertiveness, but Yvonne not so much. Their outing takes them to a museum where Philippe considers purchasing an abstract artwork which Driss dismisses as overpriced. Later, Philippe has a conversation with a relative who expresses concern about Driss's violent tendencies and criminal background. Philippe, however, values Driss for treating him without pity and for his sense of humor. Despite another unsuccessful attempt to charm Magali, Driss spends the evening with Yvonne in the kitchen, chatting while Philippe dictates a letter to Magali. In a bid to maintain privacy during a sensitive conversation, Yvonne switches off the baby monitor. She then reveals to Driss that Philippe has been exchanging letters with a woman named Eleanor, whose correspondence Driss was instructed not to open. Their relationship is entirely through letters, as they have never met in person. Meanwhile, Driss playfully teases Yvonne about the apparent affection the gardener shows her just before he heads off to sleep. However, his rest is interrupted by unusual noises coming through the baby monitor. Philippe is struggling to breathe. Unable to ignore his distress, Driss rushes to Philippe's aid, comforting him with calming words and a damp cloth to soothe his face. After Philippe falls asleep and then awakens needing fresh air, Driss promptly takes action. He places Philippe in his wheelchair, wraps him in blankets, and takes him outside for an extended period. Once Philippe relaxes, he confides in Driss about the limitations of his medication and his experiences with phantom pain. As they observe some girls passing by, Philippe shares his inability to physically please a woman due to his condition, yet finds some pleasure in having his ears massaged, a sensitive area for him. When Philippe's phantom pain seems imminent again, Driss offers him a joint. Philippe is initially hesitant but finds he enjoys it. Subsequently, they visit a restaurant, sharing jokes and a meal. During this time, Philippe opens up further about his personal life, recounting how he met his wife when they were students. He shares the heartache of her suffering 5 miscarriages and eventually receiving a diagnosis of an incurable, terminal illness. Philippe's decision to adopt Elisa came after the immense emotional challenges he and his wife faced. Philippe, a lover of competition, extreme sports, and speed, found joy in paragliding. Unfortunately, it was during one such paragliding session that bad weather led to a tragic accident, causing him to crash and severely injure his vertebrae. Despite this, Philippe believes his true handicap is not his wheelchair, but the absence of his wife in his life. As they continue to share jokes and lighthearted moments, Philippe suddenly realizes that Driss has completed his 1-month trial period and is now officially part of the team. However, Philippe's first request for Driss as an official employee is to return the Faberge egg he had taken. These eggs hold sentimental value for Philippe, as his wife gifted him one every year, amounting to 25 in total, symbolizing the years they spent together. The following day, Driss seeks out his sister Mina after school. She expresses her irritation at his lack of communication, mentioning that he only reached out to inquire about the Faberge egg and informing him about the police inquiries at their home. Driss then confronts his brother Adama, who admits to being caught with 30 grams of an illicit substance. Despite Driss's offer to take him to lunch, Adama declines and leaves in the same suspicious car as before. Back at Philippe's, Driss is present while Philippe dictates a letter to Eleanor, his pen pal, to Magali. Driss, finding Philippe's eloquent style tedious, urges him to be more straightforward. He is surprised to learn that their correspondence has lasted 6 months without any exchange of photos. Seizing an opportunity, Driss uses Eleanor's phone number from one of the letters to initiate a direct phone conversation between her and Philippe. This call marks a turning point as Philippe begins to frequently speak with Eleanor over the phone, even just before he and Driss attend the opera. At the opera, Driss can't help but laugh and poke fun at the extravagant costumes. The following day, Driss persuades Philippe to agree to exchange photos with Eleanor. He selects a picture of Philippe in his wheelchair for this purpose. Meanwhile, as Driss is exploring his artistic side through painting, Elisa barges into his room asking for cigarettes and teasing him about his artistic attempts. Annoyed, Driss sends her away before heading to see Philippe, who is in the process of asking Yvonne to replace the wheelchair photo with one from before his quadriplegia. Yvonne discreetly tucks the original photo into the escort file just as Driss enters, venting about Elisa and suggesting that Philippe needs to discipline her, a sentiment Yvonne shares. Philippe agrees to address the issue with Elisa, but he's more intrigued to learn about Driss's painting hobby. As time goes on, the bond between Philippe and Driss strengthens further. Driss introduces Philippe to new experiences like playing in the snow, accompanying him on runs, and Philippe even buys Driss his first suit. Philippe also steps in to reprimand his daughter, an interaction Driss overhears through the baby monitor. When Driss completes his first painting, he presents it to Magali, who rebuffs his attempted kiss with a slap. Philippe, however, appreciates the painting and vows to help sell it. The pair enjoy various activities together, such as driving fast cars, sharing joints, and even hiring escorts. However, the mood changes when Philippe's birthday arrives. He is not particularly excited about it, as it has become a predictable event where he feigns surprise at a party attended by relatives who seem to visit only to confirm he's still alive. Philippe predicts the birthday celebration will be uneventful. While guests enjoy live classical music, Driss goes looking for Elisa, finding her in tears in her room. She had ingested some of Yvonne's pills, mistakenly believing they would be fatal. Distraught over her recent breakup with Bastien, who insulted her, Elisa requests Driss to confront Bastien. Driss agrees, but not without negotiating a price for this favor. During the party, Philippe takes the opportunity to showcase Driss' painting to a relative, successfully persuading him to purchase it for 11,000 euros. Driss then converses with Yvonne in the dining room, learning about Maghalie's troubled relationship with a man named Fred, which rekindles Driss' hopes. As the party winds down, Philippe introduces Driss to some significant pieces of classical music. Driss, maintaining his humorous demeanor, responds with jokes. After the classical performance, Driss livens up the atmosphere by playing Boogie Wonderland by Earth, Wind and Fire on his iPod and impressively dancing in the middle of the floor. His energy is infectious and he soon gets the rest of the party dancing along, much to Philippe's delight. Later, when assisting Philippe to bed, Driss curiously opens the latest letter from Eleanor. She has sent her photo, revealing her to be quite attractive, and suggests they meet the following week in Paris. As the date approaches, Yvonne and Driss meticulously choose the perfect outfit for Philippe, with Yvonne accompanying him to the meeting. Meanwhile, Driss takes his day off to confront Bastien, compelling him to apologize to Elisa and to make amends by bringing her croissants daily. Driss also asks Bastien to improve his hairstyle as part of the apology. Later, Driss stops by his mother's workplace, choosing to observe her from a distance without engaging. Meanwhile, at the restaurant, Philippe and Yvonne wait for Eleanor, who is significantly delayed. After an hour, Philippe, feeling dejected, decides to leave and asks Driss to pick him up, unaware that Eleanor arrives just as he departs. That night, Philippe surprises Driss by taking him on his private plane and presenting him with the proceeds from the sale of his painting, greatly delighting Driss. The next morning, in the countryside, Philippe opts for paragliding and persuades Driss to join him. Despite his initial reluctance and fear, Driss eventually finds himself enjoying the exhilarating experience. Upon their return, Driss finds Adama waiting for him. Concerned by the scars on Adama's face, Driss scolds him, but Adama remains secretive about his activities. Driss instructs Adama to stay in his room while he assures Mina not to worry and proceeds to assist Philippe to bed. Philippe, not yet ready to sleep, engages Driss in a conversation about art and then shifts the topic to Driss's family. Initially hesitant, Driss eventually opens up, revealing that Adama is not technically his brother and that the people he calls his parents are actually his aunt and uncle. This disclosure provides a deeper insight into Driss's personal background and the complexities of his family life. Driss shares that he was brought from Senegal to France by his aunt and uncle at the age of 8 because they couldn't have children. His original name was Bakary Bahari, but due to other children having similar names, they nicknamed him Idris, which eventually became Driss. After his uncle passed away, his aunt had other relationships, leading to more children in the family. Philippe, drawing a parallel to Driss's advice about Elisa, suggests that Adama needs guidance. Recognizing the importance of family, Philippe releases Driss from his duties so he can be there for his own family, insisting that Driss shouldn't spend his entire life caring for an older man. The following morning, after Bastien delivers his daily croissant with an improved hairstyle, Driss prepares to leave. As he says his goodbyes, Maghalie introduces him to her significant other, Frederick, revealing that she is not interested in men. Driss accepts this and moves on. Handing the baby monitor back to Yvonne, he jests about her misleading him regarding Maghalie. In response, Yvonne gives him the escort file he had started, but Driss is disappointed to find the photo he had chosen hidden inside. He discards the file but keeps the photo. On his way out, Driss again encounters a car blocking the entrance and asks the driver to move, asserting it's a matter of principle even though he no longer works there. Adama questions this, but Driss insists on the importance of principles. Later, the brothers reunite to pick up their mother from the station. Meanwhile, at Philippe's house, Philippe is having dinner with his new, less engaging caretaker. Unimpressed and bored, Philippe decides to leave the table without eating, and with Yvonne out on a date with the gardener, there's no one to admonish him for his abrupt departure. Driss readjusts to his previous lifestyle, reconnecting with old friends and ensuring that the individuals in the suspicious car no longer trouble Adama. His experience with Philippe proves valuable during a job interview for a driver position. Using the pragmatic approach and art knowledge he gained while working for Philippe, Driss impresses the employer despite lacking traditional experience, securing the job. Meanwhile, Philippe finds himself dissatisfied with his new caretaker and generally in a poor mood. One evening, when Philippe is tormented by phantom pain and refuses help from anyone in the house, Yvonne reaches out to Driss for assistance. This leads to the earlier mentioned scenario where Driss and Philippe are first chased by the police, then later escorted to the hospital. Following this escapade, Driss drives Philippe to the coast where the seaside view helps Philippe find some peace. Later, Driss tidies up Philippe's beard and accompanies him to a restaurant for lunch. However, Driss doesn't stay, as Philippe has a different companion joining him, Eleanor, who arrives for their date, unfazed by Philippe's condition. In reality, Count Philippe Pozo di Borgo, the inspiration for Philippe's character, now resides in Morocco, has remarried, and has 2 daughters. The real-life Driss, actually named Abdel Yasmin Sellu, owns his own business and is married with 3 children. The bond between the 2 men remains strong to this day. To stay updated with more content like this, make sure to subscribe and activate notifications. Thank you for watching.